My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. What an annihilation it was after the Royal Challengers asked the opposition Bangalore team to bat first. And there's a reason why we've been being a little cheeky about this, because there were so many players from the city of Bangalore playing for this particular franchise in the opposition. And guess what? They have actually made 173 runs themselves. So first and foremost, that's what they need to chase, and then add a few more runs for that final imposing total. Still in the studio with me, I've got Harsha Bhogle. I'll come to Harsha first. Harsha, we talked about KL Rahul at the start of the show. It's been his show, but overall, Bangalore will be disappointed.
And what a finish. What did they get? 78 in the last 4 overs. I mean, is imagination now the only constraint? And I'm thinking, hang on, what a good idea that Shaun Pollock retired when he did. Because Chris Jordan's gone for 30, Bumrah's gone for 27, Dale Steyn's gone for 26. Gee, Polly, it was good when you were around. These fast bowlers are going for a lot of runs. But it's incredible just how many runs they're getting at the end. And then Shivam Dube bowling the last over. And I think all RCB fans are saying that death overs bowling nightmare is coming back to haunt us.
And ironic, very ironic, Harsha, because the last game, the very fact that Virat Kohli was mentioning was, we are so glad it was our bowlers who won the match for us in the end, and that's lasted only for one match. Let's take you through the numbers of what exactly happened in this particular innings, and it's not pretty reading. If you're a KL Rahul, highest score ever by a batsman from Punjab, from the Punjab franchise, 132 of 69, led from the front, obviously enjoying his captaincy. Mayank Agarwal kept him company in the beginning till then. Karun Nair was there towards the very end, and Nicholas Puran very briefly. Yuzvendra Chahal was excellent, and the surprise package, Harsha, Shivam Dube.
You can't have Shivam Dube bowling the last over. I mean, look, he's a handy guy, but if you're a batsman set on 100 and something batting, and you see Shivam Dube bowling the last over, you're telling yourself, okay, just hang on, because I'm going to get a few deliveries. I'm not going to be tested very much. But I think what's happened here is, I think Virat Kohli with Umesh Yadav's third over has just said, hang on, can I go back to Umesh Yadav for the fourth? Now, I'll contrast that. I'm not comparing captaincy, but I'll contrast that with what MS did after Piyush Chawla went for 47 in his first 2 overs. He said, sorry, you picked for 4, you bowled 4. So I think to that extent, maybe Kohli had to say, go for 4. But I think he got a little excited by the fact that Shivam Dube had only bowled 2 overs for 10. So it wasn't, I mean, it was an option. It's a very easy game to lead when you don't have to lead when you're watching from a distance as we are. But look at those last 4 overs. I mean, it was carnage. So what does he do now? Chris Morris is unfit. Dale Steyn has had a couple of bad games. Umesh Yadav's had a couple of bad games. Who does he go back to? I won't be surprised if sooner than later my dark horse comes into this side, Isuru Udana. But anyway, you're running ahead of the script. Let's talk about this game.
Yes, it's got to be an option at one point in time. But I think, yeah, as you said, it was those 2 overs that he bowled, plus a couple of surprise wickets that Dube took, that he decided not to go to Umesh Yadav. Another example, Harsha, was Dhoni going back to Lungi and Gidi in that opening game. He had been battered in his opening 2 overs, but he said, you're my man, you're there for 4 overs, and see what Ngidi did second spell.
And there you go. But Ngidi's also gone for 30 at one point. So Ngidi's gone for 30, Jordan's gone for 30, Bumrah's gone for 27, now Steyn's gone for 26. But you're right. I mean, it's an individual approach because he had the option of going to Dube. We now know it wasn't a good option, but if he had gone to Umesh Yadav had gone for 25, he might have been saying something different. But the fact is, it's looking more and more like Kohli wants Chahal to bowl 10 overs.
Yes. Let's not even get into the fact that there was that one fielder that you're wondering why the captain isn't looking at when he dropped those 2 catches. Only problem was it was the captain himself. Haven't seen that too often, Harsha?
No. Look, several times when someone is so good at what he does, like Virat Kohli is, he's so good at what he does with the bat that you ignore the fact that he's a very good fielder. Yes, we did talk about Kohli putting down catches. Those were in the slips. In the deep, he's brilliant to put down 2 sitters. I mean, probably in one case, the lights, I don't know. I mean, we're not at the ground. We don't know. But the second one, he would have got it 20. You throw him 20 more like that, he'll catch all 20.
But let's give praise where it's due, because the innings has all been about the captain of Kings 11. It is KL Rahul. Never mind that he's a Bangalore boy, but he led from the front, literally. And this was the progression of his innings. And you look at that. That's the progression of the strike rate you want to see. Eased his way into the innings, didn't back in overs, and a huge finish.
I mean, these are large triple-digit numbers, but cast your mind back to how 50-over cricket is played, and you get similar progressions. You might have 2 digits going into 3 digits. These are high 3 digits, but it's telling you that there is a progression in a 20-over game as well. And if you can make 78 in the last 4, and routinely we are saying 60 runs scored in the last 4, then when is it the right time to go? And the right time to go is becoming later and later and later in a T20 game, because people are realizing, hang on, we can. And how many sixes did he hit? Let me just get onto the app. How many sixes did he hit? Because this is a big ground. KL Rahul, it's 7 sixes. A lot of those came late in the innings. And this is a big ground. It was just beautiful hitting. Overall strike rate of 191. We've all been saying for a long time, he is an extraordinarily gifted white ball batsman, and he just showed us why today. Extraordinary.
We talk about the difference between the Indian players in the Indian League and the foreign players. The fastest Indian to 2,000 runs in this tournament. And of course, what you said in the pre-show about his approach, his passion, his leadership, and whether or not it'll have a bearing on him as a batsman.
Yes. I noticed Shaun Pollock is back with us. Polly, can you hear us?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Very well. Polly, I was just making the point before you popped away for a glass of wine or a cup of coffee that you, just as well you retired when you did. Your community is getting hammered in the last overs. Why is that happening?
I don't know. Look at the names: Ngidi, Cummins, Bumrah, Stain. Everyone's getting put to the sword. I think it's just options that maybe they don't have. And also, these batsmen are getting wily. They're getting very clever about what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why he just snuck out for a few moments, because he realized that it would not be a very complimentary show about fast bowlers. So we allowed him that. But the partnerships, if you have a look at Harsha, it's an imposing total, and you don't get these unless you get these big partnerships. It's something that Rohit Sharma alluded to in their opening game, right? It was not the worst performance, but they didn't get enough partnerships going. It doesn't always have to be 3-figure partnerships.
Look, we are seeing a lot of this now. We are seeing the strike rates go like this, just dip a little bit and go up again. So the middle overs, people are finding it increasingly happy to conserve wickets, because they know that they can, if they keep wickets, they're going to get ridiculous high inflation kind of numbers at the back end of an innings. So keeping wickets is becoming important all over again. And we're seeing this in match after match. And if RCB don't chase this down, I wonder if people will start thinking about whether they should bat first.
I also think we've seen KL Rahul, the one who's as destructive. Who are we expecting? We're expecting Puran, we're expecting Maxwell. It does show you, it doesn't matter what kind of cricketer you are, what kind of skills you possess. If you're in and you get yourself deep in an innings, you can be as destructive as anyone around. And how brilliant was that hitting at the back end?
Yes, it certainly was. But the real big question is now, if there's one team you want to allow a few extra runs in the bank because you want to see them bat more, it's probably this lineup. Kohli, De Villiers leading the way, and their newfound opening combination, Harsha.
You look, they need Finch to go off again, because Finch can sometimes take a little bit of time, but they need Finch to go off. But listen, Philippe, Dubé, Sundar, it falls off the cliff after Sundar. I think you don't want to wait for Yadav, Stain and the others to get those runs. Falls off a little bit, and I don't know what state of mind Sundar is in. I mean, he's picked in the side largely as a bowler. He's bowling 1 over here, 2 overs there. So it's really those top 4. Philippe, we don't know much about. I mean, he's in Australian conditions. He does well. Shivam Dubé, yeah. So it's really back to the top 4. So if you see what's happening to RCB now, back to the top 4, back to the death overs. I know it's only 2 games, but this could be a trend.
I think it's also the best surface we've seen so far. I think the other ones have offered a little bit for the seamers. This one came on nicely. It just looked like a real batting belter. So well, interesting to see if Aaron Finch can come good. I think it's time for him to put a big performance in for RCB. And then, as you mentioned, those 2 guys in the middle, Kohli and De Villiers, key.
Yeah, it probably had to be. It probably had to be the surface being as good it was, because it was not quite Sharjah where the shorter boundaries meant more sixes, but it was the better surface and of course great hitting.
Look, there's one other clue. I don't know if you can look at. Yuzvendra Chahal 4 overs 1 for 25. Now let's look down that Kings 11 side, and I think you'll find they've got what? They've got Murugan Ashwin and they've got Ravi Bishnoi. They've got 2 wrist spinners. So I don't know how much dew. I mean, there seems a little bit of dew, but if dew doesn't hamper, then that's 8 overs of decent quality wrist spin there.
Yeah, I also like the starts of Cottrell and Shami. I think they were in good touch. So they'll be hoping for a good start. I wasn't convinced that they needed to make a change. I thought Jordan would come good, given a second opportunity. But as you mentioned, the dew is not ideal for the spinners.
One question, a technical question, Sean, to finish with. Does it help? We talk about training in different conditions. I've spent a session with Sheldon Cottrell in the West Indies where he spent 2 hours only bowling with a wet ball to practice for the dew. Does it actually help?
It's vitally important. We had a couple of tournaments where we had dew, and you need to practice. You need to get the art of it. Often you go cross seam because it's just that easier, gives you that little bit more grip. But when it's coming out, the big issue is actually not the Yorkers. You can still kind of perform those. It's the slow balls. It's the rolling the figures out, coming out the back, bowling the leg cutters. Those aren't easy. And what happens too is when that seam gets wet, the ball just skids on and makes even the slow balls, which usually would just grip a touch and make it difficult to hit through the line. It's not the case. You can just stand and deliver. So, yeah, it's not ideal. We have seen it have an impact. And, if the surface is good and it's skidding on just a little bit better, then maybe this can be chased. But never mind that. 200, over 200, any time in the T20 game is going to be difficult to knock off.
Harsha, did you notice, Sean, the moment we talked about bowling, how he was...
The hands.
Yeah, I saw that. The hands of the bowler never. Actually, here's something interesting, by the way. Chahal at the end of the game was interviewed and he said the dew has already set in and they will struggle to grip it. We will chase this down. So that if the dew is important,
right.
because
but I've got one final piece of work for both of you, which is the My 11 Circle badge of honor. Score at the 6th over in the chasing innings, gentlemen.
I'm going 57.
57.
No. I had started to form the words in my mouth. I was said, and you went 57. I was starting to form the word 57 in my mouth. Okay, I'll go 53.
Okay, Gautam? And for me,
Gautam. Okay. Go 75. Come on, Gautam. Be adventurous. Just because your clothes are becoming conservative doesn't mean your estimates have to go conservative.
Okay, I'm still going 49. I'm going 49. That's all I'm going to say. Remember, we didn't have a My 11 Circle badge of honor to start with. We will find out who does it at the end. See you for Cricbuzz Combox in the 10th over. And at the end of it, to wrap it all up for this, what should be a classic encounter, My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.